Hi there. We'll look at Binance Coin Wyckoff distribution, whether it's finishing or not. So last week we talked about Binance Coin has entered the upwards of the distribution stage. So if this is right, then supposedly it's the very end of the distribution cycle. So whether this is the case and whether there are signs showed in both weekly and daily chart, let's take a look now. Here, when you look at the chart, previously I put in these texts with a question mark because last week we clearly see the red candle and this rebound. So that's the, I call it an AR, although it's different from the automatic reaction from or after the buying climax. So previously I changed these to like AR with a number, so you know is a similar sense after a peak. May it be buying climax or upthrust of the distribution. There's always like a price retracement. So I'll still use the term AR, but instead of just AR for upthrust, I'll use AR2 for upthrust of the distribution. I'll use AR3. So we also asked, would there be a second test? And this week, and last week as well, the price came up and retest the purple key level. So this key level is basically somewhere around the upwards of the distribution. But when I said it, it wasn't at the highest point of the upwards of the distribution. So I usually keep these key levels at around the open or close of the candle body. So it's not the wick itself. Currently, the price is staying above the close 3-4 weeks ago. There are still 2 hours left. Whether the bulls are able to defend this line or this level, we'll quickly know like in 2 hours. So as of this moment, it seems like this second test is still higher than the upwards of the distribution. But if we look at the volume, we see that this is, let me move it back to the right hand side. So we see that this is lower than like mid-July, mid-end July. So even with a bit of selling at the top as well. So it seems like the demand is coming down. The price going up may mean there's less supply than before. So the big picture, the macro perspective, while the price is still trying to test the purple level and maybe even try to reach the ceiling of this upward channel, this light blue box over here, the declining of volume may be a signal that this or the steam is dying down. So be careful what's going to come next. I'm just quickly checking the Bollinger Band current squeeze. Currently there's no squeeze. However, if this starts to trade sideways, especially between the purple and the blue key levels, 740 to 845, that means, let me shrink the box so it's easier for you to see the numbers. So that means that when it trades sideways over here, a squeeze will happen with this indicator. When the squeeze happens, it means more significant price move will happen. So that's the big picture. If we go to the daily chart with a more micro view, last week we put in these two tags. So basically asking, would the second test or LPSY be happening? So the past few days prove that this is a second test. So we'll keep it here. As of now, the price is still trying to stay above the purple, but like I said, if we look at the volumes, especially these red bars over here, the selling force is pretty strong once it's above the purple. And also when we compare this bunch of green volume bars that pushed the price to the upwards of the distribution back in July for almost 2 weeks time. This time, even though the time frame looks similar, look at the volume. The volume is like half of what we had back in July. So this, I would say, is a warning sign that maybe some people was trying to buy the dip and then FOMO in and pushed the price to where it is, and then on Friday and Thursday, these 2 days, there were some profit taking going on. I'm not sure whether there would be people like find themselves in the hot seat now, because it's not easy to get out once the price dipped again. So this is a very tricky situation. If that's me, I'm not going to rush in now, because it definitely is a FOMO scenario to me. At least I read it that way. So what's next would be, at least in the daily time frame, that sign of weakness may appear next. But looking at what happened over here, over the course of 2 weeks, it climbed to there. So maybe if it doesn't like end as drastic as the drop back in end of July and beginning of this month, in just 5 days it came back down to the blue level. So if it really happens that way, that means before our next session the price would come down to test this blue level. And more importantly, you see this line over here. Let me change it to a dashed line so it won't be that confusing, and also change it to yellow as well. So this yellow dashed line is the upward trend line that's been set since April. So previously, when the price got down to the first sign of weakness after the buying climax, it briefly gone below it for about 2 weeks, and then eventually reclimbed to the level and pushed it all the way to the up thrust. This time, if it really comes down to the blue, if it happens within like 10 days, it may still stay above this upward trend line instead of having to go below it and maybe test the lower level and try to climb back up again. So if it stays above, that means even if there's an LPSY happening, it may still be at a higher level, whereas if it falls below the yellow, the LPSY may be suppressed by this trend line, because that line becomes a resistance line then. So that's the scenario for Binance Coin. I'll put in a tag over here because there would be a lot of times it happens that there is an LPSY peak somewhere, and before it eventually dies down to the green level, where the green level we will see another sign of weakness. So that's a similar level to the sign of weakness that happened around June time. So over here, near end of June. That's pretty much it for Binance Coin for now. While it is certainly at a high point, remember I mentioned in the beginning, in the early days, when I covered Binance Coin, it's tricky because Binance Coin is also exchange currency. My tongue is tied. So there are potential fluctuations of the coin due to the trading activities. So be careful when we analyze Binance Coin. So that's all.